Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtyam Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadidaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna-rahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. There's always that long gap after the prayer where I'm actually just like, I take a moment to just rest in that space, feeling connected to Swamiji. And I know it might be awkward sometimes, but that it's really a great way of centering yourself, and that's why we start everything with the prayer.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. It's our form of connection, right? But yeah, welcome back. Welcome back to Yoga from the Source. This is Prasiddha.
And this is Dridha.
And we are so excited to be entering into our next episode. We actually were trying and attempting to go live as we said that we were going to do, but the problem was we don't have enough subscribers yet on our joint channel.
Yeah, so we need you to share.
So please subscribe.
Let people know that this exists so they can subscribe so we can go live with you guys for the next time, okay?
Yeah, because we have a pretty decent following on our individual channels, but our joint channel is newer and we just have very less content on it. So obviously we don't have a lot of subscribers yet. I think we only have 500 and something. So yeah, we're halfway there. We need 1,000 to live stream. So please send your love over that way if we've ever given you guys value, and we will really start going live there directly, so you don't have to wait for the upload of this or anything.
Yeah.
It'll be much more direct, plus the most exciting part is we can take live questions, which is what we really want to do.
Yeah, and that's what we want. We want to be able to take questions and hang out live. This is really, it's not about us just sitting here and telling you everything and like being very like rigid and like it being a lecture in any way. We want to communicate with the yoga community and just hang out and swap ideas and enrich one another, enrich the yoga community as a whole, so we can bring more authenticity back to the practice and really get the true benefits of yoga, which is to unite with Paramashiva, to cognize yourself as Paramashiva, and to manifest the state, space, powers, and being of Paramashiva.
Yeah, so for all the listeners, what is Paramashiva?
So for me, when I first had my spiritual awakening, I was very logical growing up. I needed to understand things. I was an atheist because I didn't understand what God was. And so for me, though, I really clicked once I understood the quantum physics side of it, in that everything is energy, but beneath all of that, what quantum physicists discovered is something called the unified field, which is this field that pervades everything. It's omnipresent, it's everywhere in everything, and it is conscious. And they can prove that this is a conscious field, what Max Planck called an intelligent mind. And in the Vedic civilization, this was perceived as not the unified field, but of Paramashiva.
Which had the exact same meaning, just a different name. And it's pretty amazing to see. I know we keep talking about it. We're totally nerds when it comes to the Vedic scriptures and the Agamic scriptures, but it's amazing to see the concepts that were present so many thousands of years ago. It's pretty arrogant, I think, of us as modern humans to think that we are the most advanced human beings. We somehow think that people in the past were behind us, but there's a lot of evidence to the contrary, and history and archaeologists are finding more and more evidence of that, right? But this has been known about within Hinduism, within Sanatana Dharma for a long time, because when you dive into the scriptures, you can clearly tell that this was a very advanced civilization in terms of scientific understanding, and of Enlightenment sciences, both. They were completely in harmony. That's why we call them the spiritual sciences, because they're very much based in science and logic, but acknowledge the presence of consciousness, right? And so it's a beautiful integration. But yeah, that's exactly what, like how Dridha described, I think is a really great way for anybody, whatever your background is, to relate to what that space is, you know? What we call Paramashiva is just one name for that ultimate consciousness which runs the universe, that independent intelligence. Many people have different names for this source or this creator, so to speak, right? But the important thing to understand is that it doesn't have to have form. It doesn't have to have a face, you know, and a body. Like sometimes from a Western or Christian upbringing, we visualize that force as a god, a white man with a, you know, beard in the sky, right? I mean, that's an exaggeration, but in a way it's not. Like that's definitely
definitely what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, that's who I thought that being was, that was separate from me, up in heaven, had this visual form, right? And God, consciousness, transcends that so much further, so much beyond. And that is why we use the word Paramashiva, because our words really matter. It gives a different context for things when we use different words, and that's why we want to really align and make sure we use the right vocabulary as much as possible for you guys, so that you guys get the full scope of understanding, the same way those truths have been transferred to us by our guru, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. That's one of the reasons I think for sure why we have experienced what we have, why we know what we know, and why we've been able to, you know, accelerate our spiritual growth and our consciousness and our experiences of that enlightenment state or samadhi state so fast, you know, in the last few years, is because it is a very subtle science, right? All those details really matter. So we're going to do our best to transfer that as best as we can for you all as well. But yeah, what were we going to talk about today? Now I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, we wanted to we were thinking about what we wanted to share about, and we were discussing one topic I think is really interesting, and I hope you guys are interested in it as well, which is, what does it really mean to be a yogi? You hear that term thrown around, right? Like, at least within the yoga community, like everybody likes to call themselves yogis or yoginis, right? And what does that word really mean? And what does it mean to be a yogi and practice yoga? So yeah, you want to start off?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the modern understanding is somebody that is practicing yoga asanas, however they pronounce it, practicing the physical postures. And I think along that, because that's certainly how yoga entered into the Western world, is through the physical postures.
Which is one little fraction of yoga, by the way.
And I think that there is a movement happening where people are incorporating all the other limbs of yoga.
Piece by piece.
Yeah, and in their own way and in their own progression along their own journey, which is really good and completely supportive of that. I love that that's starting to grow and expand. But to be a yogi, there's still this whole other world that we haven't quite fully explored yet here in the West, at least. And I think that is just deep down that spiritual component of the Atma uniting with the Brahman. And that is the individual soul uniting with the cosmic consciousness, what Prasiddha was just describing as Paramashiva. And so a yogi is somebody that really is understanding that one base truth, that you are an individual seeking the unification with the cosmic soul. So individual soul and cosmic soul, and your very life is for that. That's what I would think the very basis of a yogi is.
100%. I think you cannot separate. I mean, what it means to be a yogi, if we had to really sum it up, is an intense spiritual seeker. Because the path of yoga, I'll just say, within the framework of Sanatana Dharma, what most people commonly call as Hinduism nowadays, there's multifold different paths to enlightenment or to the realization of the ultimate oneness with the divine. One of them is yoga. So yoga is actually a very specific path within Hinduism, and it is the path of aesthetics. Extreme, intense spiritual seekers. Spiritual beings who basically, they have no other even desire or want in their life other than spirituality. Like everything else is just like a little thing on the side, right? But they're people which aren't even really caring so much about other dimensions of, human life. It's really, they have that drive. And so, if you go to India, which I hope you guys, as many of you as possible, get the chance to do, you really see what we're talking about just in experience firsthand. If you meet sadhus and yogis and sages who are all around India, and especially in obviously holy cities, you'll see, especially in the Himalayas or Varanasi or other different sacred sites. But these are ascetics who literally, they don't own money, they don't own possessions, they don't have anything. They live on the side of the road, they beg for food, but they're so rich in their inner space, and all they do is spiritual practice. 24/7. Sadhana is the word for it in Sanskrit. They just do spiritual practice and tapas 24/7. 24/7. And that is really the embodiment of the spirit of yoga, because yoga in itself is a path of those who are mirroring the embodiments of Shiva. And kind of a little overview of that too. I know this is a lot of concepts to grasp when you're starting off learning about all this. There's so much. That's why it's a very complex thing to learn about. And so I want to just make sure that we're doing a good job of explaining everything to you. But Shiva is the embodiment of destruction/rejuvenation energy of the cosmos. So Brahma is considered like the creator. Vishnu is the sustainer. Like he makes everything happening as it does, sustains life. And then Shiva is the one who starts anew. He's the one for recreation and rejuvenation of life. And sometimes we see that as a negative, but it's absolutely not. It's the energy of like blank slate. You're always starting new. You're always a new being every moment. And you always have a chance to reinvent yourself. That energy is the energy of a yogi, that a yogi is seeking to embody. Now, on the next note, what does that mean, tangibly, grounded? How do we live that lifestyle of yoga, I think, would be the next component to go into.
Yeah, you want to start that one off?
Yeah, okay, I can. I was like, oh, I'm talking for a while. But yes, I would say the next phase of like what it means to be a yogi is living the yogic lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So this
ACHARYA.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. This is the component which is definitely hasn't been touched on by most people in the West in their practice of yoga, because to them yoga is exactly that, a practice. But in reality, yoga is a lifestyle. It's not. Yeah, that's pretty good. No, but. Exactly what Dridha just mentioned, the word acharya. We kind of explained this in our last podcast. If you didn't get a chance, you can give it a listen, episode 2. And I believe we actually explained it in episode 1 as well, because we use that word a lot. But acharya means one who lives the lifestyle of something. In the Vedic times, there was not even such a thing as somebody teaching something unless they lived it. Which is, it seems really straightforward, but it's funny. Society nowadays is the complete opposite. Teachers are not experts in what they teach, and teachers do not live the authenticity of what they teach. A lot of times it's just a job. But in yoga, being an acharya means living that lifestyle. So even if you're not a teacher, teaching others, the same alignment needs to happen for you if you really want to live as a yogi, which is integrating the lifestyle of yoga, which means in every single moment you're practicing yoga. It doesn't mean you just get on the mat and you're doing yoga, right? It's in every dimension of your life. And so, yeah, you want to touch on how we've kind of experienced that and what all comes into that? Yeah,
well, I mean, neither Prasiddha nor I knew what an acharya was before becoming an acharya, really. I understood what it meant to be a yoga teacher just based off of what we discovered here in the West. But, showing up to a studio, seeing somebody instruct, etc., telling you to do certain postures. This is a yoga teacher. And the acharya, though, is when you're leaving the studio, when everything else outside of their life, they are living the yogic lifestyle. And they're not necessarily teaching all the time, but they're they're representing what it means to be a yogi, and thus those people that see that teacher are learning from the Acharya based off of them just living their life. And that was something that we discovered experientially. It wasn't something that you're taught to do. It's you, especially with our guru at least. He doesn't qualify. He doesn't. What's the saying? He doesn't choose the qualified. He qualifies the chosen. I wasn't an Acharya until he blessed me and put me into that position. And
me too.
Both of us, yeah. But as soon as we were kind of placed into that
responsibility.
That responsibility is a really good word. Yeah. Put into that responsibility, which we embraced. We wouldn't have been given the responsibility unless we wanted to embrace it. Did we truly experience what it means to live as a yogi? Because it is an intense lifestyle. It's not easy to get up every morning at 3 or 3:30 a.m. and do your kriyas and then instruct a class, in the most complicated, powerful yoga sequence, but the most complicated sequence for any teacher. I can guarantee that. Yeah. But which also makes it so much more powerful than your standard practice anyways. And then living the lifestyle from there on, like from 3:30 a.m. throughout the rest of your day until you're asleep at midnight or so. You're living the lifestyle, and you're embodying what it means to be a yogi. That is what an Acharya is, and constantly being in that space of bringing yourself back, aligning again and again to Paramashivatva, embracing Paramashiva within you.
Yeah, that was perfectly said. I think that it's exactly that, right? It's learning how to handle yourself not as a human being, but as a divine being. Yeah. Which is easier said than done, but also we like to sometimes lightly say that, like, I know I'm divine, like I'm a goddess, I'm a god. And it sounds lovely, but what does it really mean in practice, right? One, it's important cognition to have. Definitely, that's the important first step. But then how do we live it? It's constantly facing your patterns. And anytime you're seeing powerlessness, you do not entertain it. Whether that be in thought, in emotion, in experience, in feeling impossibilities, that your lack of, feeling like you cannot do something, whether it's physically, whether it's, technically, whether it's emotionally, whether it's spiritually, you have to absolutely drop those things. That is yoga in practice. It's a very ferocious and powerful lifestyle. And it's nothing to be scared of, but it's just, it's exactly that. It's for very intense seekers who are driving to shed those patterns really out of their lives, And
I think we're the most empowered as far as when you become an Acharya, your whole life is cognized as, I'm here to unite with the divine. It's not just every time you enter onto the mat. And so what that means is you become more empowered throughout your day when you see these thoughts, when you see these, limiting belief systems arise, and you remember, I'm an Acharya, I'm an ordained Acharya, I'm living the lifestyle of a yogi. Like I'm so much more powerful than this. It's almost like you don't even need to listen to those, what the 3-year-old is telling you to do. It doesn't matter what your 3-year-old is saying as far as like you should be living like this, or it's just irrelevant, the information that nothing against 3-year-olds.
You mean like your inner child?
Yeah, in a sense, your inner child.
Okay.
That's the way to describe it. So your inner child is saying these things. It's like, you know what? That's great. I love you.
But I'm not going to listen to you.
But you're a 3-year-old. You don't understand.
The maturity.
The maturity that it takes, and that happens from just living it.
Yeah, continuing to push through, right?
Yeah, the practice of living it and realigning it again and again. And that's really what an Acharya is all about. Again and again, recognizing yourself as Paramashiva and embracing it and radiating that state and space. And it is such an incredible blessing to carry that space and to experience what it means to really be a yogi.
Yeah, it's definitely 1000% transformed my life. Yoga as being a part of it. I really never thought, and I always share this, but I never thought that yoga was my path, because I always thought it was like a physical based practice, and I never considered myself that type of person. I wasn't inclined for that or passionate about it, but through really learning what yoga is as a whole and its lifestyle and the cognitions that you carry as a yogi has radically transformed my view really of myself, to be honest. I think the biggest transformation has been like my inner image of myself and how I cognize myself. I used to feel really, really powerless in my body, and I still face that for sure. I would say that's my like Achilles heel is my physical capabilities. I still have a lot of doubts about myself, but those have become radically redundant compared to how it used to be. They used to run my life and stop me from doing things, And I've really got to see myself go beyond a lot of limits that I thought I had through the practice of yoga, both physically and spiritually. So that's been a really, really amazing experience. And I just wanted to like touch on really quick too. I mean, do you have anything else you wanted to add on that?
You know what happened? A thought arose that I would really like to know what somebody's thoughts are with this, and I would like to feel the question. And then the next thought was, but we need more subscribers, remember? So just a reminder to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
Yeah.
And to share this video so we can let the rest of our other subscribers know from our individual platforms that, hey, we want to do this and we want to go live with you.
Yes, so it's so much nicer. But I think I was just thinking, like, also one thing I wanted to then just go into towards the end of this is the kind of almost the technicalities of living a yogic lifestyle, which is like I was trying to kind of summarize in my own mind, like what are the key components of a yogic lifestyle. I would say number one is living a sattvic life. Sattvic meaning completely non-violent. Sattvic meaning balanced and always seeking to only have a permanent state of balance in the foods that we consume, in the substances that we consume, and the choices that we make. So, an essential part of being in a yogi is being vegetarian. It's living a vegetarian lifestyle because we do not, when we're consuming the pain patterns and memories of animals, it's going to inhibit spiritual growth. This is just from a spiritual perspective. I'm definitely not trying to like talk about the morals right now or anything, or any other reason, although there's many, that can be argued. But just from a spiritual standpoint, to not put that pollution inside our body. Along with that goes pollution from other substances, especially alcohol. This is a big one. Big no-no for yogis is alcohol. And it's actually, believe it or not, contraindicated in the scriptures. Meaning, it literally says if you practice headstands, shirsasana, where you go, upside down inversions, and you drink alcohol, you will manifest psychic disorders, mental disabilities, depression, anxiety, and other like mental disorders. So this just even a request. If you know somebody that's practicing beer yoga or any one of those stupid yogas where you're drinking alcohol during the practice, please inform them that this is it's very dangerous to be doing that. You're actually not even supposed to be wearing rudraksha. If you wear rudraksha and you drink alcohol, it clearly states in the scriptures you shouldn't be consuming any intoxicants. Like there's various different areas where you should not be consuming intoxicants when you are living the yogic lifestyle. And if you're an individual that is currently drinking and you're wanting to kind of get out of that and you need support, then that's what we're here for. We would love to help in any way that we can in helping you break that. But ultimately, you cannot be practicing yoga if you are drinking. Yeah. It's really like the ultimate theory boils down to this. It's about taking the utmost care of your physical body as a temple, because the body is what enlightenment the experience of enlightenment manifests through. It has nothing to do with your mind. We were just watching a satsang last night where Swamiji said this again, but it's true. Enlightenment has nothing to do with the mind, because the mind does not actually exist. It's a construction of the ego. And so the body, the physical body...
Doesn't that blow your mind?
And the physical body is what houses the enlightenment energy. It's a physical energy that has to be held in the nervous system. So in order to do that, it's really about continuing to purify ourselves in the ultimate way. That's really what the yogic lifestyle is also about. A huge pillar is purification of the body. So it matters what foods we eat. I mean, it's even within like the yogic diet, it's even more strict. Vegetarian, as in you don't eat mushrooms. You're not supposed to eat onion and garlic. They're really supposed to be used as medicine only, because they have rajasic and tamasic energy. I won't go too much into that, but that's a part of Ayurveda. And there's tons of different like little foods. Even yeast. You're not supposed to eat a ton of yeast because it has a different energy. Funguses and certain seaweeds. Like there's all these like definitely really minute details about keeping the body pure. And then alongside that, we actually physically purify the body with the kriyas, which Dridha mentioned earlier. We call the Shuddhi kriyas, which are yogic cleansing techniques. We both have I think, do you have videos on your channel about them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. We both have videos on our channel about them, on our individual channels if you guys want to check that out. We have tutorial videos on all of the cleansing techniques. So again, we won't go into detail in this podcast, but we do those every morning. We do an enema, a neti pot, which is a nasal cleanse, and an eye wash. And then at nighttime, taking the herb haritaki, which is also a part of the yogic lifestyle because it, again, cleanses the body, keeps the digestive system really light, but also helps sleep less and give you energy. And sorry if you noticed earlier, I was like leaning over here. I really wanted to pull up this scriptural reference.
Yeah, for sure.
This is just to give you guys a really, a glimpse. You don't just have to take our word for these things. I just wanted to give you guys a taste of what the yogic lifestyle really encapsulates. So this is a reference from the Sarvanyanottara Agama.
Sarvanyanottara Agama.
Yes, there we go. That's a tongue twister. And it's the very first sutra, the very first line, okay? It says, of course the Sanskrit's there. I'm just going to read you guys the English translation though. I will explain the disciplines of yoga as applicable to the one who is alone, keeping himself dissociated from the company of worldly-minded persons, who is with settled mind, who is with a deep sense of detachment, by keeping his mind under control, who takes moderate food, who limits himself in his worldly routine activities, and who sleeps moderately and is awake sufficiently. Listen to my instructions on yoga. So that's how it starts. It's amazing. Like the very first line is already saying, basically, if you've gotten to the point where you're looking to learn the spiritual path of yoga, already the prerequisite is that you're already of sound mind. You've kind of experienced meditation and you've healed yourself in a lot of different ways from the human condition. You're kind of already beyond food. You don't have addictions to food and different like physical material things, and you're beyond sleep in a lot of ways. You're not obsessed with getting a bunch of sleep or caring about having that tamasic energy in your life. You're a very active person. So that's kind of like the very first thing that is said about it. You can also find this Agama on HimalayanAcademy.com. They are not our sponsor, but I just plug them because they have amazing content. Thank you, if anybody's listening, for your work. It's amazing, for your translations on the yogic scriptures. But yeah, beautiful stuff. And it gives you a good glimpse into this path, what it really entails.
So I think that would be a good transition into what is it mean for you and I to perceive as what's like the number one thing for living as a yogi or living that yogic lifestyle. For me, it would be living from the space of Advaita Oneness. Mm-hmm. So understanding that I am an individual and the Atman, and that there is a cosmic soul as well, the Brahman, and yoga being that uniting between those two, but that uniting is oneness. It is Advaita. So starting from that context of living a lifestyle of living Advaita, I would think is, for me, the base for a yoga practice.
I think that's actually a perfect... It really is, ultimately, that is the context of every other value. So if you're coming from a space of oneness, what does that mean? It means you're living and practicing nonviolence. You do not harm any other living being to the best of your ability, whether it's human or animal or anything else. living and practicing that nonviolence, practicing satya, truth, right? Truth telling. Because again, in the space of oneness, there's no room for delusion and dishonesty. And there's multiple others. A great start, I would say, just to end with, is for you guys, if you're interested, to look up kind of all the yogic values, is looking up the yamas and niyamas. You can find them and you'll see it talks about this kind of guidelines for life and how to live that dharmic yogic lifestyle. Even how you can practice celibacy. And celibacy doesn't just mean like withstanding completely, but also even within a marriage or a partnership, when are the auspicious times to engage in those acts, when they should be avoided, how to can maintain your energy, or how you lose your energy through those practices. Even that is talked about within the yogic path. So diet, lifestyle, and even when you wake up and go to sleep, and the different components of your day, all of those are part of the yogic lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, there's no need to get overwhelmed and feel like, where do I even start? Oh my gosh, like how can I get going and I'm never going to be able to match up? It's not about perfection, but it's about seeking. It's about constantly seeking to dive deeper into the practice, to learn more, to be better, and to start implementing these values in our day-to-day lives, Mm-hmm. So it's absolutely not about the space of judgment or guilt. If you're feeling any of those feelings throughout your practice, immediately drop them. That's, I think, Swamiji says, right, guilt is the only sin. The only sin in the cosmos is guilt. So don't do that to yourself and to your consciousness. Drop those feelings and proceed. Proceed with bettering yourself, empowering yourself, and taking steps to really live this lifestyle if it's something that you're seeking. And I can really tell you from my experience, the benefits are endless to implementing these values in your life. You become at rest. The best way to explain it is you feel finally like your being is so relieved that you're not fighting with life anymore. You're not resisting life anymore. And you're in so much of that flow space, that oneness space, and that harmony with the living world, with nature and the cosmos around you. So that's the last thing I'll end with.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, I would say subscribe. Again, so we could go live for the next time. And we would love to take some questions as well. So leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment. If you're listening to the podcast,
you can also leave a comment. Actually, I saw.
Oh,
you
nice.
can leave comments. So
nice. Yeah. Or you can always just message us directly on one of our platforms. Prasiddha being the Kundalini Yogini and me being the Blissful Athlete. You can find us basically on any platform with those handles. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, we're excited to continue going forward with this and sharing what it means to be a yogi and bringing you back to yoga from the source.
Yes, let's all start getting back to our authenticity, expanding, diving deeper, and ultimately connecting with the divine.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, blessings, everyone. Have an incredible week. Make sure that you are doing everything you can to align yourself to your highest truth and principles, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Yes, Nithyananda.
Nithyananda.
And we'll see you next time. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam Paruka Paramastu. Om Nithyanandam.